Okay. So how you doing, Chris?
I'm good. How about you?
Good. Now I can see you. There you're showing up on the corner of my screen there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm just fiddling with mine here too.
Good. Now who did I just recently talk to that had somebody that you had interacted with recently? But and then I see you popping up on Facebook all the time.
Yeah, I wonder who it was.
I don't who was it? I can't it'll come to me. It'll come to me. And then we have somebody that's there by phone, and can you speak or are you muted? I hear a click. So let me see if I can unmute. Hello. Let's see.
Hi, Terry. This is Miriam Webster. I can only stay a few minutes, but hi.
Hi, how you doing? Good to
I'm
see you.
great.
Good to see you. Okay. And let me see if that's mute, unmute. Okay, so welcome. So I've already started the recording, and this time, last time for some reason the recording didn't take. So this one I got here ahead of time and started it. So what we're going to be doing today is I'm going to be talking to you about 5 questions that make a difference, make a lasting change. And I'm going to not only give you the questions, but I then want to share with you why they work. So we'll be talking a lot, about how the structure of a particular question can really change the way people receive it. And we're going to be speaking a little bit about presuppositions and questions that have presuppositions of change built into them tend to be more powerful. And so I'll explain a little bit about what presuppositions of change mean. But just in a simple way to understand presuppositions, every sentence, to make sense, has to have certain things that are presupposed or understood. And people can presuppose without being aware that they're presupposing. So you can have a presupposition, of success, where you say something like, how will you know that you're successful? And if I ask that question, what's built into it is the idea that you will be successful, and there'll be a way for you to know that. So I like to presuppose success in almost every question that I ask. When you do that, you unconsciously set people up to be successful. Now, unfortunately, people can inadvertently presuppose failure also. They could say things like, sometimes well-meaning parents or teachers might say, oh my God, I wonder which way you're going to screw up this week. Which again, said with frustration, would imply or presuppose that you're going to screw up. You just wonder how. So you're using presuppositions all the time. If I say to you, how many dogs do you have? That means I'm presupposing that you have dogs, and it's just a question of how many. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my screen so that you'll be able to see the screen, and I'm going to be pulling up some information that we'll be looking at. And I see a couple of other people have arrived. Hello, Kate. And I don't know who else is here because I see your phone number, but I don't see your name attached. But I'm going to presuppose that there's somebody at the end of that phone who will be wanting to learn at a deep level. Good. Okay. So screen. Boom. And I'm going to be popping up. And we're going to go to the beginning. And as I do this, as I pull this up, I would like to ask real quickly, if you wouldn't mind, all of you that are unmuted, to tell me a little bit about what you'd like to get out of this particular teleseminar today or this webinar. And I know some of you, so I'll be happy to hear from you. But if either of you would like to start and tell me what you would like to get out of the class today, and let's make sure that I try to build that in. So since you were on first, Chris, if you would like to start.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I, as always, love learning from you. You are one of my favorite mentors, and I feel like I've been out of the loop for a little while with some of the stuff you've been doing, and it's been a while since learning from you. So I just thought I'd like to hop on and hear what you're teaching today, and I'm sure it's going to be a great reminder, or even maybe you'll say something that I'll hear it in a different way and it'll make sense for where I'm at. And I think I'm just feeling like there's going to be some little tidbit that's going to, you know, resonate and going to help me with some of the coaching I'm doing right now. So just looking forward to that.
I like it because you're presupposing you're going to learn.
Yeah,
that's great.
I'm presupposing a little tidbit.
I like that. So I'll just go down the line. So Kate, you want to jump in and tell us what you'd like to get today? Kate, are you muted, unmuted? Okay, Miriam.
Hey, Terry, I would just love to soak up your ambiance, and anything that you have to say is A-OK by me. And I love precepts. So, and I was attracted by the subject of reframing. I love reframing, and I know that you are a master at it. So anything you can just learn is great. So do what you do.
Thank you. I'll tell you what. It's a whole lot easier to speak to a group of people that are predisposed to know you and like you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Very true.
All right. And there's some people on the phone there if you'd like to jump in. That would be...
So, Terry, this is Kate.
Hi, Kate.
I was muted and I didn't realize it, and I'm also on the computer. So I'm two people, but it's really only one.
Okay.
So basically what Chris said was exactly what I was going to say, and knowing that I'm trying to step back into my work, which I haven't been doing much of. And I mean, I have, but not professionally. And that I'm presupposing that I will definitely learn something and be reminded of things I have forgotten as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Actually, I can tell which phone you are now too, because it's pulsing on my yes. 802-472. That's you, right?
Yep.
Okay. And then the next person would be 951-990. Are you muted or unmuted? So let's see. I'm going to make unmute. Good. Can 951?
Hello.
There you are. Hello.
Yes, I just heard I was unmuted.
You are unmuted.
This is Janice Birkenhager. How are you?
Hello, Janice. How you doing?
Good.
And
Good.
Janice, when we finish, make sure that that I have a time with you like we promised before. Somehow or other we missed that. So at the end, if you'll hang out, I'll set that time with you.
I actually, unfortunately, I'm going to have to hang up at 3:30 because the good part of that is I have a potential client call at that time, so that's a
Yay.
good thing. So if you don't mind me just texting you
I
again
don't mind you.
or
I don't
something,
mind that at all. Good. Thank you.
and I appreciate you remembering that. And I'm disappointed I have to hang up early, but happy to be here as long as I can.
Well,
and
then
I'll hit the
let's
recording because
jump
I
in and-
always learn something from you.
Good. Then let's jump in and make some things happen. All right. Thank you for being involved. And I will welcome and like questions. And we'll make a part of this interactive today because I always like it. I think it's most valuable when it's real world processing. Okay. So I know that many of you also appreciate language and the power of language. And I know from knowing many of you that you also practice it and are quite good at it. So what I'd like to do is to reinforce what you already believe. And I think that sometimes you may only have a couple of moments with somebody. And it's helpful if you can ask really powerful questions. And again, the idea that you presuppose certain kinds of things happening really speaks at the unconscious level, because there's unconsciously we get it. There's very little, there's not going to be a pushback. Now, sometimes on a conscious level, there can be a pushback, but if you do it in a way that resonates with the unconscious mind, there's not going to be that kind of pushback. So one thing I will say that it's really, really important as a coach that you actually pre-frame change. And you can actually set up your sessions with people in a way that presupposes that you're going to be very active. And you might say something like, in order to make the best use of our time today, I'll be asking you some really pointed and specific questions. And would it be all right if we did that so that you can get the most out of this session as possible? Now, if I do something like that, what I'm doing is I'm pre-framing that it's serious, that we're going to use the time, and that I'm going to ask questions that will get the most as possible. So I've been thinking a lot about this idea of more and more pre-framing, and I don't always do that, and I've been more and more conscious of it. And one of the people who alerted me to that was a little article by Steve Andreas, who talked about the importance of that. So if you only have a short period of time, actually for any of your sessions, make sure that you pre-frame the importance of what you're doing and pre-frame being efficient and effective. And I think people will appreciate that. Okay. 5 questions that create lasting change. Now, what I'm going to be speaking about is that you want to presuppose that not only that change is possible, but it can last. So you can also, even as I put that, 5 questions that create lasting change, even that in and of itself begins to create a pre-frame or presupposition. Now, one of the things that's important to remember in coaching is that you want to make sure that you have a clear outcome with someone. Outcomes are stated in the positive. They're stated as achievable. So the quickest way to get to an outcome is to actually ask, what do you want as an outcome? So in some ways, I touched on that in talking with with Chris and Miriam and Kate and all of you and saying, what is it that you want to get out of this class today? And you said, well, I'm hoping to learn something. So you're stating, so you've created a learning outcome. Now, if I were wanting to be even more specific, I would ask something like this. I'd say, so what specific kind of learning would you like to get today? And somebody would repeat. And the next question might be, and what's important to you about that? So what I'm really doing is I'm being clear about the goal, and I'm making it even more powerful by presupposing that it's important. Okay, now I'd like you to think about a particular outcome that you have that's important, all of you. Hopefully you have one that you're thinking about. So take a moment, check in with yourself, and ask yourself, is there an important outcome or goal that I'm wanting for myself? Okay. Pick something that's important to you. Now, keeping that in mind, notice how this following question will impact on that outcome or goal. How will achieving this goal impact or influence your mission or purpose? How will achieving your outcome impact on or influence your mission or purpose? Good. Now, what I want you to notice is that I'm implying here with that question that we're working at a really high level, and I'm deliberately holding my hand up because that particular question will jump someone up to imply that important outcomes will in fact impact on your mission or purpose. Now, even if you don't have a clear idea of what your mission or purpose is, that question is going to begin having you search for mission and purpose. Now, many of you remember, I'm speaking to, I think many of you remember this, that logical levels of influence implies that people think of things in a logical progression, and that the highest level is on mission or purpose. Why do you do what you do? Now, what that's likely to do is to engage that part of you actively in the pursuit of your goal. So what I want to find out is if you, I believe that you're unmuted. I don't have anybody muted, so that you should be able to respond. Tell me what you discovered by asking that question. What actually happened? Anyone?
You help them to connect to their bigger mission or vision.
Okay, did you connect to yours?
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Yeah.
And what happened when you did that?
It helps you to really think about whether or not it's actually important, what you're wanting.
Okay, so for you, it implied importance.
Yeah.
Now, here's my hunch. My hunch is that in doing that, you actually then may, if it didn't quite meet that standard, you may have considered a different outcome. Is that possible?
Yeah, well, and it also helped me to connect the dots to how it could be. Like at first glance, maybe it wasn't that in alignment, but then it helped me to think a little bit more deeply about it and how it actually is connected.
Wonderful. Now, what Chris did is speak at a kinesthetic level about deeply, so that sometimes people will mark out something as important based on how deeply it impacts on them, rather than how high they tend to go. So I want to check with you, Chris. Are you more likely to kind of feel something in your body, or are you more likely to visualize what you want?
such a good question. I know. I am really visual, but I think the feeling comes first.
Okay.
Does that
Okay.
make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Okay.
So good. So notice that for Chris, it made her consider something more deeply, and it made her actually ask, oh, could I link this up to mission or purpose? Hint, if you can link something up to mission or purpose, it's more likely to have a deeper meaning, a more influence for you. Good. Others, Kate, Miriam, Janice, anybody else?
This is Janice, and I noticed when that question was asked, it just, all of a sudden there was a bigger picture of how what I want, achieving that would influence a much greater, bigger picture.
Now, I like that, and I want to check something with you. For you, Janice, when you have a bigger picture, does that create more motivation?
I think it creates more motivation, and I see more opportunities with a bigger picture.
That makes sense. So if you listen to her, think in this way. In general, if we want, big often has the connotation of important. So we go, that's really a big thing. And we mean by that, it has more importance. So the opposite is true too, that if we say, it's not that big, it's small potatoes, we imply it's not that important. So the way the mind works is it will often code things that are more important as bigger. So when you make a bigger picture, it's likely to be more motivating. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good. And thank you, Miriam. Okay. Now, others, what did you notice? So, Kate, what did you notice?
Am I unmuted?
You are unmuted.
I noticed that it reinforced what has been nagging at me lately, that I've been working on other things besides my business. I don't want to say gotten off course, because I've been very much on course on what I've been doing, but it hasn't been helping me work on my business. So knowing that if I can succeed in the bigger picture of supporting and helping other people through my business, that's going to be how my purpose tested. I mean, it's important stuff. It's going on around me on a daily basis. The work that I'm, doing is just, it comes natural to me, a lot of it. So just being reminded that I'm valuable, and I have a bigger purpose, and
Good.
that I shouldn't just let it drift away.
Good. So notice for all of you, that experience of being able to notice that you have a higher purpose is going to result in more powerful kinesthetic feelings or a larger picture. And so again, that I'm presupposing that many people in the coaching industry do have a purpose that's bigger than themselves. And if they don't, it's not going to hurt. Here's the other good thing about a question like this. It may not actually achieve that for everyone, but it's not going to hurt. That question is not going to hurt or create stuckness or anything like that. So let's go to another question. Okay. So I'm going to jump down to okay, the next one is this. Now, think of the outcome, same one. And the question is, what will you have to believe to make this possible? What will you have to believe to make this possible? Okay, just notice what that does. Beliefs influence all kinds of things. They influence the majority of important choices that we make. And most of you already know, particularly because you've done a lot of work with me, that what you believe will influence almost everything you do. Now, that question is powerful and it creates lasting change because it presupposes that to get something bigger or more important, you may well have to believe something different to make it happen. And even if you say, well, I'll have to continue to believe that it's worth it, even then it just reinforces the belief. Now, it's a little bit easier if what you're doing is looking for a supportive belief as opposed to a limiting belief. You might say, I'd have to give up the idea that I can't do it, but that implies that you would have to believe that you could. So it's actually that question in and of itself will cause people to focus on a positive experience as opposed to a limiting belief. And there are often limiting beliefs at the unconscious level that limit or interfere with change. Notice that the above question doesn't ask one to identify a limiting belief, but rather to identify what new belief is needed. It also sets up the idea that it is possible to change and that beliefs are part of change. So in that one question, there are all kinds of really interesting presuppositions and things happening. So tell me what you discovered when you heard that question and you applied it to what you wanted. So I see you there, Chris, so I'll start with you.
Yeah, well, what I was thinking of it more in terms of clients, and I like that it's focused more on the positive instead of identifying the negative belief or, what's holding them back. It's more about what they need to believe instead.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. Others, what did you discover?
Hey, Terry, it's Allison.
Hey, Allison, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm sorry I was late.
Well, you know that old saying, better late
Late
than
than
never.
ever. Yeah, I'm here, and you're amazing as always. I love this question.
What did it do for you when you heard it and you thought about what you wanted? What happened?
Just hearing the question tells me that it's possible. Sorry for the horns, but it says that it's possible. And it's always the limiting beliefs that tell us, oh, it's not going to happen. I'm not good enough. This is not good enough. This I can't, whatever. But if it's possible, that means anything's possible. And then of course it's possible.
I like that. Now, those of you that are listening to Allison, notice the difference in her energy level when she talked about what's possible, and even when she alluded to what's, a limiting belief. Did you feel the difference in your body, Allison?
Yeah. Yep.
So even energetically, that question in itself is going to raise energy levels and in terms of motivation. Good.
Yeah. It invites you to just imagine all of the possibilities. What if? And in a good way, in a positive way.
Yes. Okay, so notice even here and when we're working here, that you can even hear just with that question, there are already interesting things that begin to shift and happen. Okay, now this is a be alert to. When someone is going for a big enough change, then their beliefs and their values will need to be considered. Be alert for conflicting beliefs because beliefs come in systems. So changing one can and will impact on other beliefs. So just as an alert, kind of when people are going for they recognize a big enough change, they're going for a big change, it will require oftentimes an upping of beliefs and or values. So just need to be aware of that because sometimes that can create fear, and fear is a limiter. Okay, it doesn't happen. It's just speaking to you to just kind of notice that. Okay. Well, that's funny. I said, be alert to. Good. And, okay, now, here's another question that has presuppositions built in. So think about the outcome that you're wanting. Kind of notice it again. And what I invite you to do is to imagine already having this outcome. So step into the future where you're already achieving this outcome. Feel yourself in the experience of having this. Now, as you're there, I want to ask this question. Will achieving this outcome be a problem for you or for anyone else? Consider how this change will impact all areas of your life. Okay. Now, what that probably did, and I'm going to invite you to just notice it, is that in presupposing it, you might actually be alert to potential impacts on other areas of your life. Think of ecology as understanding that we all live in systems. You might have a partner, you might be a couple, and your partner may actually struggle if you were to achieve something big and important. And you might go, wow, my partner has been struggling, and if I'm successful, I don't know what it'll do to the relationship. Might be an example. Or you might go, wow, if I achieve this, I might actually be needing to work a lot more than I want to work. I'm not so sure I want to do that. In other words, every change will have consequences. Some of them will be intended, some might not be. I think I can use some here and now current examples. I'm going to speak about a political issue without being political, if that's possible, but I think it's a good example. President Trump implemented a Muslim ban, what he called a Muslim ban. And what happened is that it became pretty clear that it had unintended consequences in lots of areas. He didn't think through the legal implications. Nobody said to him, have you thought through the constitutional implications of this? That would be an example of somebody thinking systemically. And somebody else said, wow, it created a backup in the transportation area, and it ended up costing several $1 million in terms of lost wages and backups, and et cetera, et cetera. Now, those would be examples of where somebody was not thinking through systemically. They got what they wanted, but they hadn't considered the ecology of getting what they want. It's one of the hallmarks of being a good leader is being able to think systemically. Does that make sense? Okay, now Tell me, when you thought about getting what you wanted, what did you notice? Anyone? So Allison, you're up on my screen, but you're muted. I'm going to unmute you, I think. Or unmute yourself, Allison. What?
I did.
Good, there you are.
Here I
So
am.
when you considered getting what you wanted, what did you discover?
This is a question that then makes you think and go, oh, maybe there are, or at least for me, it made me go, oh, I didn't think about that. Because just a few minutes ago, I was super excited about all of the possibilities, endless possibilities. And now I'm like, oh, wait, it will actually impact others. But that could go either way. That could also be
Yes.
a positive impact or a negative impact.
Yes, but notice it can increase planning.
Yes.
Because again, I didn't say you're not going to get it. I'm just saying it will have consequences. Just notice what they are.
Yeah.
Increase what? Planning?
Yes, it can increase planning because if I imply, again, presuppose that you're going to get it, you might go, oh, I'm going to be working. Oh, well, maybe I really can now ask myself, what's the way I really want to be working? So it can actually, again, presupposes that there will be and are consequences. It's one of the natures of change, but it allows you to embrace that and just think through what it is. In other words, better to have thought about it now than deal with it later on. Make sense?
Yes.
So that's what ecology. So Kate, what did you discover?
I guess basically it was like a big it was like a sense of relief.
Good. So how did that happen? I like that. Tell me how it happened that you were able to access a sense of relief.
Because I wasn't in the place of trying to talk myself out of it or telling myself why it wasn't going to work or why I can't do it, or I was in a place of a lot more ease, and immediately I was thinking of someone that I'm working with on a non-professional basis. Well, it's in my regular job that I'm working with, outside of the job, who's got a alcohol problem, and preparing myself for when we actually have a real conversation, and just thinking that if I bring that sense of I can be supportive, I can do this kind of work with him in a successful way, it was like, oh, yeah, I don't need to go to that place of trying to second guess myself, and doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to be successful. That's up to him, but that means that I can feel as though I'm doing the right work, that I'm doing my work.
Wow, that's neat, because what I noticed that did for you was actually separate out in a positive way what your part in it is, that you're going to ask the right questions, you're going to do things, but you're not going to assume responsibility for whether that person takes action or not. That's their job. Is that kind of how it worked? That sounds pretty neat.
Yeah.
Good. All right. So that's the power of presuppositional questioning. That when you can begin to ask those questions in a way that clearly presupposes good outcomes, it has an immediate impact on people's experience. Now, those of you may already be thinking about, wow, what if I started asking myself presuppositional questions that presupposed success. Now notice I could say something like, wow, how would I like to invest the money I'm going to make this year? Now, if I do that, that's pretty neat, because what did it presuppose? That I'm going to make some money this year and that I'm going to be investing it. Now, that in and of itself can be helpful. So what I'm saying is that not only can you use these questions with clients, but what I'm going to suggest is that you ought to start using them with yourself too. And Kate was speaking about something that I think is helpful. And Kate, when you listen to if you listen to this again, or when listening to this again, there's an example. I want to notice something that I just did really quickly. So I said to Kate, if you listen to this again, and I realized that was not the way that I would like to presuppose. So I'm doing a rewind, start over. So Kate, when you're listening to this replay, you may notice, so I'm presupposing that she'll listen to it. You'll notice, you can begin to notice what some of the presuppositions that you've been letting in have been impacting on some of the choices you're making. Because what I noticed in what you were saying is that you were presupposing some difficulties. Your words, I won't have to talk myself out of X, Y, or Z. So what I'm going to suggest, Kate, is that you consciously start changing the presuppositional questions you're asking yourself. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Good, good. Does that make sense to others? How many of you are often dialogue with yourself, particularly if you have a critical or a judgmental voice?
Sorry, I'm on mute, but I'm laughing.
Okay, good. So unmute yourself. Good. So what I want to ask you is this. What's the positive intention of that critical voice? What's it want for you when it's being critical?
Safety.
Wow, that's pretty neat. So what's important about safety?
You don't get hurt.
I understand. So that part that's doing that wants to make sure that you don't get hurt.
Don't get your hopes up and you get let down.
Well, I understand. It doesn't want you to get your hopes up, because then you might feel let down. So when did you decide that you had difficulty managing disappointment?
I guess the moment you start talking to yourself in that voice.
So at an intuitive level, ask yourself, see if this question makes sense. How old is that voice? It's like if you were to give that voice an age, a chronological age, would it be 5 years old, 6 years old, 30 years old?
That's a good question. Maybe 24.
Okay. Okay. So, Allison, tell me about a time when you really bounced back from a difficulty. I want you to find a time that really brought out the resilience in you, that really you tapped into a kind of a intensity or a kind of a go for it or a kind of a bounce back from that you wouldn't have known that you had unless you went through that experience. Find that time when you really bounced back and you came back from something from a deep disappointment.
Okay.
So tell me a little bit about it. You don't have to give me a lot of content, but what was it? How did you do that? What was it that made it possible for you to bounce back?
I think I got tired of feeling sorry for myself or feeling bad. And I just went, wait a minute, this is not who I am. I'm better than this.
Oh, so somehow you tapped into, you kind of chunked up and you said, I'm not the kind of person who does this. I'm better than this.
Yeah.
And so once you notice that, what began to happen?
I began to take action in a different direction. Just pivoted.
Well, I understand. So you became more focused on taking action than on noticing that it might not work out.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
So what was it like to take that action?
Exciting.
Ooh. So tell me more about exciting. What's it like to have excitement when you take action?
Suddenly you see endless possibilities.
Oh, I see. So it kind of opens up options and opportunities.
Yes, it does.
Oh,
It does.
wow. So I wonder what it will be like when you invite that part of you in even more frequently.
Exciting.
So notice, I mean, you all can hear it in her voice and notice even her chuckle. Now, notice what I presupposed is that you already are resilient. Now, and it doesn't matter about the content, but notice that part of what we all have, because we're here, we're still on the planet, is we all actually have resilience. Resilience is the ability to bounce back. One time when Beth and I, my partner and I, at that time was my business partner, but now my wife, we were working with some professional athletes. And what we discovered is that what was more important to professional athletes was not that they always be in the zone. They liked the idea of being in the zone, but what they discovered was even more important was the ability to bounce back from, say, a batting error or a fielding error. That was actually more important than always being in the zone. But as one of the most famous baseball players said, Babe Ruth had two simultaneous records. One was the most home runs, but he also had another record at the same time. Anybody know what that record was at the same time?
Strikeouts?
That's correct. Most strikeouts. Isn't that interesting?
It is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Or as one other basketball player said, you miss 100% of the free throws you never take. So resilience is one of those things that you develop by bouncing back. It's sort of like the idea that if life didn't present challenges, we wouldn't need courage or motivation. So the more you develop it, resilience is a muscle, that the more you practice bouncing back, the better you do. Good. So others, what did you learn? So I picked on Allison, Kate, or Chris.
This is with the ecology question, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll share. What I thought was interesting was that I didn't see any problems with it or any negative changes because of the belief that I chose.
Good.
So the belief set it up for this to run smoothly.
Good.
Yeah.
I like that. Now, it's great. It doesn't necessarily mean that you will find problems for you or somebody else, because actually, I think as you begin to think systemically, you actually have there's actually less and less concerns about ecology.
That makes sense. This is a good reminder, though, to check in with clients, too.
Yes, yes. Because it also, I love, the question also is powerful for one other important reason. You're presupposing success also, and you're just helping them discover, are there any downsides? And by downside, it just means unintended consequences. I don't really mean that there's a downside. It just means unintended consequences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I noticed for myself is I think in the past there would have been more consequences. But again, back to that, like choosing almost, I want to say the right belief, but it just choosing the belief the way that I did, it changed this part. So it was kind of cool to see how in the past it could have been a problem based on what belief I may have chosen. That makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. It also tells me that you've been doing much more work at the level of beliefs.
Yeah, that's right. It's cool to see.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that stuff that used to be there isn't there anymore.
I was thinking of you the other day because Facebook talked to me and was showing me some things from the past, and I pulled up our pictures of our trip.
That was such a great trip. I still talk about that all the time.
Yep.
Awesome.
Chris went down to Peru with us when a group of us went down. So she had an experience of hiking all over the Andes.
Wow. It was so awesome. And with the shaman and it was great.
Yep. That was pretty amazing experience. Okay. So what I'd like to talk to you all about is I'm doing a new and adventurous thing that may be of interest to some of you. I'm decided that I'm going to do a small group coaching program. And I decided to do that for 3 important reasons. 1 is I can work with more people. 2, I can do it in a way that is much less of an investment for people. And 3, it gives me a chance to perfect working with this kind of a Zoom platform. Now, I like the idea of working on this kind of a platform because I can actually see people at times. I can share things off of my computer. And I think this is going to become an even more important way to deliver content in the future. And what I'm doing with this group coaching program is it's going to be a 6-month program, and it's going to be I'm going to try to keep it at around 10 people so that you get lots of attention like we're doing today, and so that I can work and help people achieve their particular outcomes. And this, if it's not of particularly useful or helpful to you now, I would appreciate it if you could let other people know about it. And it's going to start the end of this month, and you can discover more about it by going to, let me pull up the link. There it is. Go to terryhickey.com/group. And what it'll do is it'll pull it up. And it's over time, it's a 6-month period of time. I work with you individually on the phone, an initial process. Let me actually pull that up. And then, there we go. 2 sessions a month that will meet online on this kind of a platform. And the sessions are recorded, and they're available only to the participants, so the session can be reviewed for deeper learning. And the other is, during that time, there's an initial session to set your outcome, and then 2 half-hour sessions during that 6 months that you can use whenever you want. And that's your own time with me to create the outcomes and breakthroughs you desire. And out of that, I anticipate that, number one, that I like group experiences because you can always tap into the power of the group. And it's very powerful for motivation. And it's new. I haven't done it before, but I was thinking about doing it because 2 reasons primarily. One is that I'm getting to the point where I'm pretty busy in other areas of my life. I'm working on with some groups in Alaska, so we're doing a lot of traveling. But the other is that I'm realistic. I'm not going to be able to be doing a whole lot more real deep, intense work with people. So I want to provide an opportunity to work with more people. So if this would be of interest to you or anybody, just go to terryhickey.com and /group. And if you have any questions about it, just give me a call. I'll be happy to answer them. And the investment for the 6-month period is like $17.97, and that's split over 6 months. So I'm not doing it to make money. I'm doing it to cover my expenses, certainly make a little bit of money, but I'm really doing it so that I can work with more people. Good. So here's what I'd like to know. Did you learn some things today, and what questions did what you learned generate? So if you wouldn't mind jumping in and tell me what you learned today, what you liked about what we did, and if you had any ahas or things you'd like to share, I'd really like to hear them. And what did you most enjoy, and what did you walk away with that you really enjoyed? Anyone?
I'll go, Terry, just because I have to hop off. But yeah, I just always so great to reconnect with you and to, hear your guidance and so many great reminders and just, little things that maybe I knew before but kind of got out of practice with. So really, just really great to tune into that again. And I'm just feeling excited to bring some of these awarenesses to my clients too.
Good. I wanted to remind you of something. Remember, from your certification, there's going to be a 3-day, if you want to come to it. You're in Tucson. You can come to that.
Oh, when
part
is
of what you did? It's the 17th, 18th, 19th of March, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So if you want to come to Tucson and reconnect with some of your buds.
Yeah. Okay. Let me look into that. I would love, if I can't do this one, I definitely want to do that again because it's so valuable. So
that would fit.
Thank you so much. I got to run, so
All right.
It was awesome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye everyone.
So Kate or Allison, jump in.
Hey, Terry, it's Allison.
What'd you learn?
So much, as always. And I missed the beginning, so I missed the first 15 minutes. So
you'll get the recording this time.
Cool.
This time the recording worked, and
Okay.
Yeah.
Learning for you. I kind of like what Chris was saying. It's the reminder, because as a coach, I know these things, but it's really the phrasing of things is really, really helpful, because it is a word that can change the way somebody is thinking, change something from positive to negative.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the presupposing
Yeah.
in a good
Yeah.
way
Yeah.
that, sorry for the bombs going off in the background, can really change how somebody is thinking. And by us presupposing what's possible can help plant that seed for them so that they can open up and see what's possible. And it also works on ourselves.
This is true. This is true. I would quite agree. I would quite agree on that. Well, that's
Yeah.
neat. I'm glad you jumped in. I'm happy to hear your voice. I see you on Facebook. You're doing lots of neat things. Keep it up.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the idea of your group.
Good.
Too.
Well, think about that. It would be a great way to connect.
It would. It would. I have a call right after this, and perhaps it's going to make it possible for me to join your
Yay.
group.
You know what? I'm gonna put lots of positive energy out there.
Please do.
I will.
Please do, because I would really like that. I actually, is it just the two of us now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I can share this with you. So I was at a Christian Michelson event this past weekend.
Oh, is that the one that you had purchased the last time I was there? That you bought from somebody?
No, that was in November, but this was a bonus that I got from that. This was a bonus.
That's
event.
what I was. That's the one I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that event that I purchased was actually in November, or is September and November, but this was a bonus. This was something different. Anyway, it was great. It was really great, and I feel like these things always come up when I need them the most, because I was having a really
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. And so I was feeling really discouraged, and because some good things had happened, and then I wanted to keep up the momentum, and then some other things happened that got in the way of my momentum. And I was feeling really like, it's not working, and nobody knows who I am, and nobody cares what I have to say. Blah, blah, blah. And then I go, and it was like a booster shot. Because I learned that people are impressed by me. People do learn stuff from me. People do like to be around me.
You have the ability. One thing about that that's helpful for you to remember is that your energy is powerful. The problem is that it can go in both directions.
Yeah. Gemini.
So you have the, you can move people with your excitement, but your energy is powerful enough that it also can impact. If you're down, it can also impact. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
So keep in mind which direction you want your energy to go.
Writing that down.
Yep. Well, that's neat. Good. I'm glad.
Well, so I didn't even get to the best part.
Oh, okay.
Is that so we had to write down our action plans, like for the next year, for the next 90 days, for the next week. And it's here in writing. You can't see it, but it's here in writing. My action plan for the next 90 days, I have a whole list of things, business-wise, JV partnerships, giving talks, getting clients, blah, 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 work with Terry Hickey.
Yay!
So obviously he's pitching for people to work with his coaches. I was like, no. I got my coach. I just have to be able to pay him. But it's on there in ink, and here you are.
When one of my mentors, who is a man named Robert Dilts, and about 5 years ago, I was at a conference, and one of the questions they asked was, if you could work with anybody as a mentor, who would it be? And I wrote down Robert Dilts. And 4 years later, I got a phone call out of the blue. And it was a guy that I had been in a training program with named Mitch. And Mitch says, I got your name from somebody, and I remembered that I was in a class with you. And I'm calling you because somebody said that you might want to be in a mastermind group with Robert Dilts. And I didn't even know he had one when I wrote it down 5 years before. But I
Wow.
did that, and I went, and it was a stretch money-wise.
Uh-huh.
It was a stretch, like it's $25,000, but I did
Wow.
it because I felt it was worth it, and it was. When I went, it's definitely worth it.
Yeah.
But there's nothing like setting an intent and putting it down. I've experienced how often those kind of things have happened for me. That's neat.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, I'll look forward to working with you then.
Me too. I have been looking forward to that for quite some
Good.
time. So
So
hopefully it'll be sooner.
good luck with your call,
Thank you.
and and you'll get a copy of this recording.
Great. Thank you
Okay.
for doing this.
You're
Have a
welcome.
great day.
You're welcome. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye.